stuff when it goes live, and then we all know whether we've gone live. And so just tell me when we're going to start.
Welcome to the 20th episode of SuggestCast.
Wait, are we live? I'm not looking at my screen.
Yes, we're live.
Yay.
We're SuggestCasting today on Synod Day.
That's not the name of the holiday. Synod of right? Would be more to say.
Yes?
Okay.
I'm getting kind of an echo from you.
From me?
Oh, is it from him or from me?
Oh, yeah, Vincent, I think it is from you. I was hearing an echo of what Lewis was saying, but I'm also... Yeah, it's from Vincent's end.
What? Vincent echoing? That never /always happens.
It didn't happen last week.
He didn't happen last week. Alright, so we're joined by Benjamin Hopscotch Heaton.
Hello.
Matt the Raptor Smith.
Hello.
Vincent Def Leopard Watkins.
Hello.
And I'm your host. So let's get started with these suggestions from last time. Ben, do you want to run through the list of suggestions?
Yes, there were of them. Find an archetypal example of a character who's more interesting due to them being two-dimensional. The animation videos of Vince Collins. The episode Die Fleiderhaus of Judge John Hodgman. The webcomic It Hurts. And my suggestion was to go over past suggestions from all of SuggestCast to review which ones you've actually referred back to.
Okay. Let's start with the Vince Collins things.
Right, so I watched 8 or so of these.
I think I watched 2 or 3.
I watched all of them.
Okay.
Did you guys watch the traditionally animated ones as well as the computer animated ones?
They're like Malice in Wonderland?
Yeah.
I watched a couple of those, mostly computer animated ones, though.
I watched Malice in Wonderland, Wizard of Oz, and Animation School Dropout.
I think you need to watch one of each to really get a feel for what's going on there.
Yeah, what there is in common between those.
Well, it kind of gives you an idea of what he's trying to do with the computer animation that's not working very well. Like with his traditional animation, he keeps doing this thing throughout all his works where it's kind of images morphing into other images, and then these just weird visuals leading into other weird visuals. He doesn't really tell a sensible story in any of his works. It's all kind of the same.
Wizard of Oz, I think, comes closest to actually telling a story.
Yeah, it comes close, but not quite.
Yeah.
And it's basically a retelling of Wizard of Oz.
With some guns and robots. And...
Yeah.
I do like the bit at the end where people are walking through the metal detector and then it goes off because they're missing something, so the wizard gives them something to complete their needs. I
particularly like the noise that it makes whenever the wizard is on screen. It's very good effect.
The part at the end where she goes back to Kansas and then Munchkins greet her again and she shoots them again.
When I was watching the Animation School Dropout one, it reminded me of that one Old English comedy sketch where they do a fake Pixar ad.
Yeah.
And it's Mr. Cube goes to Sphereville or whatever.
Right, it's all just very lazily done stock animation shapes.
Yeah.
Missed that
And
one.
this is obviously not as lazily done, but it looked as
yes.
nuanced.
I wouldn't be surprised if they were stock models. It would surprise me if he made those models himself.
The biplane looked pretty stock.
I think I'm probably more positive about his computer animation than anyone else is going to be.
I like computer animation. It's just the point of the suggestion was that if you look at his older work, where I think supposedly he had a team of people working on those hand-drawn animations, and then he's obviously a lot older now and trying to do these 3D animations because he either doesn't have the time or the money or
the backing, probably.
The backing to do the ideas that are in his head, right? So he has a vision of what kind of animation he would like to make, but it's executed through like the most basic means possible, and he totally doesn't give a shit whether or not it's up to standard. You know, like he's just. It seems to me that he's just having fun getting his vision out there, whether or not it's to a high standard, you know.
I see what you're saying. I wonder how much of this is like a vision he has, and how much of it is just like he animates some separate sequences and then just flops them all together on top of a soundtrack. He reuses images a heck of a lot. That it just seemed like he really loves that woman drinking on the toilet who then starts to vomit and defecate at the same time, like bubbles. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah,
I do.
He used that a lot of different
times. But once you've developed that character once, why not reuse her?
It doesn't hurt that the ideas he has are, you know, pretty juvenile, and then they're executed in a juvenile way.
I don't even know if I'd say it was juvenile, because it's not like I watched that, and it's not like he's fascinated with like puking or pooping or anything, or it's not like that's a punchline. I mean, it's just a weird.
I can't think of too many highly acclaimed or critically acclaimed works who center around puking and defecating at the same time.
Well, his works don't center around it. They just have this recurring image of this woman doing it. But they also have recurring images. They have like that robot that turns into a car when it falls back. Really, his big recurring theme
Sorry, it has Transformers in it?
Liz, actually everything in these videos is transforming into something.
No, but the robots that turn into cars is a specific type of Transformer, then.
Okay, not all the Transformers turned into cars.
The Autobots?
Yeah. That's racist.
Not even all the Autobots.
I mean,
the Dinobots were affiliated with the Autobots.
It's funny they weren't Autobots, though.
I don't think they were.
Autobots is because they turn into cars, Ben.
No, the Autobots is a major faction. I think they were called Autobots even before they gained their car modes.
Yeah, but that's just like how werewolves in fiction often have wolf-related names even before they get bitten.
Right, you mean it's a realistic coincidence.
Like Remus Lupin.
We're getting off topic.
Yeah.
Please, let's return to the conversation about people defecating while vomiting.
Well, one thing that interested me here is, Vincent, you mentioned that it seemed like maybe he just made a lot of sequences and assembled them together into these larger videos. But one thing that struck me was that there's usually some sort of connection with the things turning into other things, just a very loose one. It feels intentional, but I got the sense that the person making it felt it was more justified than what ended up being conveyed. It's things like they will move their hands in front of their face, and then the hands turn into fishes and the same size and shape as the hands were, and then other things happen to change that.
Yeah, I mean, you can see where he's going with that stuff, and it's the same when you watch his traditionally animated stuff. There's like a morphing sequence where one thing morphs into another. It's not just like a cut and all of a sudden it is another thing. But in his 3D animation, that's the way it usually goes. Like, it'll start to vaguely form the shape of something it's going to turn into, but then in an instant it just is that thing. It's a much more jarring transition, but you can see it's the same kind of thing he's trying to do.
Yeah, and that makes me think maybe that's what he had in mind all along, but only with computer animation was he able to make the changes fast enough to match his vision.
Yeah, I mean, drawing all those sheets is so slow, therefore the animations would be slower. We're hurting Lewis. We're causing him physical harm.
No, that was me groaning in pain. It had nothing to do with this. It's just my
Okay.
constant state of pain.
That was my emotional state
I'm-
reflected in Vincent's film.
So, Lewis, you weren't a fan of these videos?
The animation test one, at least, maybe I have a lot of trouble paying attention to things that have like no narrative coherence, so I might not have watched the whole thing intently. Okay, I didn't notice the defecating woman imagery.
Well, that's.
I don't
that's
think she's in the animation school
Okay.
dropout one.
All right, so that one was fine. That one I didn't mind.
Did you notice
That
the part where when
Wonderland
animation
and
part?
Wizard of Oz I found disturbing.
I think they were supposed to be disturbing.
Yeah.
Well,
I missed out on something here.
I could have done without as many tentacle monsters in Malice in Wonderland.
Yeah, it's pretty intense. I mean, it really seems like in addition to the transition from 2D to 3D, he's lost some of his teeth. I think, metaphorically, it's
And
not as
literally.
raw.
Do you mean
And literally.
are the teeth that you're referring to vagina dentata? Because
That's, I'm gonna. It was unintentional, but if you're
okay,
gonna make that joke, go ahead and do it.
I did. The joke is left as an exercise to the listener.
Yeah.
I liked his traditionally animated stuff. Like, I think that it was pretty good. I mean, for what it
Okay.
was, it was just a little, like just a few minutes. But if you'd taken something like that and put it on, Liquid TV or something like that, that was showing short bits of independent animation. This was a little bit before Liquid TV, but even a few years later, if this had shown up on Liquid TV, I think people would have thought it was pretty cool.
I think I preferred Zachary Horror Shop to this thing.
I don't know if you could have got it on the air.
Probably not Malice in Wonderland, because that had a lot of sexual imagery.
Yeah, that was basically all vaginas.
That's a fact.
Well, whatever I said would previously be your epitaph, that's gotta be it now.
Here's what?
It's basically all vagina.
That's gonna be Ben's epitaph.
I'll take it.
You don't have something that you said. I mean, as far as I'm concerned.
Okay.
Anyway,
I-
let's get to the point.
So why'd you recommend it?
No, he suggested it.
Why'd you suggest?
Yeah, a recommendation is not right. Apparently, it's bad. It's bad mojo to give a recommendation, but a
Yeah.
suggestion is okay. This is what I got from the past times.
Yeah, that's
It's
correct.
a suggestion of an artist whose vision exceeds his skill or means of production.
Oh man, I feel like I have a better reference point for that, and it would be my version of Grant Wood's American Gothic that I did when I was in the first grade.
Yeah, I think we made a rule where we're not supposed to suggest our own things. So
Okay, fair enough.
Oh, really?
No,
Did you
I-
make that rule?
I think
I don't
Ben
remember that.
wanted to suggest something once, and Vincent said no. I can't go back to the context because I'd have to.
Oh, right, with the magic card dreams.
Yes, that's it. So he had to kind of reword it to make it make sense.
Good catch.
Yeah. So
So, I'm not sure I got that out, but I'm not sure that there's an issue here of his vision not being realized properly.
do the videos have hits at least?
I don't know, probably. I don't pay attention to that thing.
Yeah, we're not concerned with mere popularity here on SuggestCast.
We're true artists.
I don't think I would hold this up as a reference point for what Matt is saying it's a reference point for. I can see where he's coming from. I have to imagine there are lots and lots of better examples, and that's probably not a hard concept to communicate anyway. And this guy's stuff is he has such a particular style and feel to his stuff that I think I would more hold him up just as a like if I saw something that was stylistically similar to him, I would say this is kind of like a Vince Collins thing. Like if you saw some kind of surreal animation with a lot of jarring transitions like that, like maybe I would compare it to him for that. But I mean, he certainly, I think, took a hit in quality when he went from traditional animation to computer animation, but
That's
I
true.
really
Well,
don't.
I liked the computer animation more. It was clearly worse.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
I'm not saying I didn't enjoy it. Like, I liked his 3D stuff. I thought Animation School Dropout was hilarious. I got a lot out of it.
They tell you
But
that
you're laughing
animation
at it.
school ain't cool.
Yeah.
But you're just laughing at it because it's terrible, right?
No, I think the constant screaming, like every time I think I'm not gonna laugh at the guy screaming, and then he screams again and I laugh.
I think the sound effects are one of the worst parts of his computer animations, like because he uses those stock sound effects repeatedly, and they really
I'm not
But
laughing
really-
because it's bad. I really think it's funny.
well, I'm not talking necessarily about the screaming, which you like, but like he really likes that like sound, or
Yeah.
there's like some kind of slurping sound he uses for people drinking things that it sounds so terrible. It's kind of like I've seen a lot of videos that use the doom sound effect for a shotgun firing whenever they have a gun fire. And it's
Yeah.
just so immediately recognizable as a sound clip that it really pulls you out of it.
Like the Wilhelm scream.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I put my artwork in the thing. It's not an official suggestion, obviously.
Okay, yeah, I see it.
No, it's better than I thought it would be, honestly.
Yeah, what age were you when you made that?
I was like first grade, third grade, somewhere in there.
It's, that's within parameters of first grader drawings.
Yeah.
I don't think I could do much better now, to be honest. And I like that I did not even try to make noses or the rest of the building behind them.
That's
Well, those are
successful-
noses, kind of.
That's an anime nose. I've seen that on screen.
Okay. You can't see it well in this picture, but I actually did draw the pitchfork. I just drew it in the same color crayon as his coat.
Oh, so it's black on black?
Yes.
Yeah, I was wondering why there wasn't a pitchfork.
You can actually kind of make it out a little bit.
No, I can't.
Yeah.
No offense.
No,
I'm
I'm saying in not in this context. In the actual thing, you can see where I drew it if you know to look for it.
Well,
Yeah.
that's why it's important to look at paintings in person.
Really nice. You should have kept at it.
I sort of figured I should go out on top.
Yeah.
But I suppose we all go our paths and things. So
Yeah.
Stands a method. Leave on a high note.
Okay.
So Vince
Let's
Collins
just-
videos.
Thumbs up, thumbs down. Let's end this thing.
All right, I'm giving it a thumbs down.
North Carolina yields to South Carolina. As in, I guess I'll just yield Scribbits, whatever Scribbit says.
You didn't watch them.
Exactly.
I'll give it a thumbs down.
Matt, what are you giving it?
I'll also have to give it a thumbs down, I guess. Everybody disagrees with me, but I don't know. I'd like to see some better examples.
I'll
Something.
give Animation School Dropout itself a thumbs up, but not the other stuff.
Interesting. I think you have to settle on one particular vote.
Oh. But the particular vote that I just issued.
Look,
All right.
It doesn't matter. There was one no vote. Who cares what the rest of the votes are?
There are like 3 no votes.
No, but my
You
point
can-
was once there's a no vote, I can vote anything I want. It doesn't make a difference.
It makes a difference. It just doesn't make a difference for the outcome.
what about your
What if some of our votes are later disqualified?
Also, as Vincent proves, you can like something and not suggest it. So
Is that Vincent is something that you like but don't suggest? Is that what you're saying? Okay. I'll give it a thumbs down.
Yay!
What happens
All right.
with unanimous thumbs down? Does that happen?
Well, if it's a unanimous thumbs down, then that actually rolls over to it being approved as a suggestion.
That's not
Because it's a unanimous vote.
Yeah, the requirement
we're gonna
isn't
use
get all yes votes. The requirement is get all the same votes.
Because now we're going to use this as a reference for a unanimous decision.
All right, let's talk about It Hurts.
It Hurts, the webcomic.
So I read approximately like 41 strips of It Hurts. I'm sorry that I didn't read more. Well, I don't know that I'm sorry that I didn't read more. I apologize for not reading more.
Lewis, did you read the particular sequence I linked you to?
You told me to read.
You did?
Yes.
Good.
And I also read one that Matt linked to me where one of the characters says maybe we should stop using horrible racial slurs. The other character,
And they do for the rest of the comic.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of a turning point.
Yeah.
In
If
their
I started there, it might have been better, I guess.
Matt, the section I linked Lewis to was I told him to read strips 98 through 100.
Talking about the apocalypse scene.
Yes.
Spoiler warning.
See,
Well,
I thought that was the least interesting part of the comic, really.
I thought it was a pretty interesting part of it. Maybe not the most.
Ben, I read about 10 strips after the apocalypse scene as well.
Oh, good. So you saw that in fact had a lasting effect on their fictional world.
No.
It's space apocalypse.
Yeah, that happens like halfway through chapter 1.
Okay, so let's start talking about this comic.
Don't we need to know why it was suggested, other than Vince?
That comes later. We talk about it first.
All right.
Matt, how many times have you been on this podcast that you don't know the basic order?
Lewis, earlier today you were asking yet again what time we start.
That's my way of saying, can we start early?
You could just say that.
And that's my way of saying, can we just talk about this already?
All right, fine. Go ahead and talk, Matt. What do you think about It Hurts?
Yeah. It's
Hold
all right.
off there, didn't I, fucker?
It's all right.
Lewis, language.
Sorry.
He's been reading too many foul-mouthed webcomics. He can't control himself.
I have. We're lucky it wasn't a racial slur.
Or yeah. I found it amusing. It's an amusing little webcomic. The apocalypse stuff. I feel like a lot of the drive of this comic is based on just introducing new characters and then doing like a few things with them and then moving on, which is pretty standard for a comic. It's not out of the ordinary or a bad method of having steam in a story to just introduce the characters. But it seems really apparent to me. I don't know. It just really stood out to me that like anytime things started to get boring, they just add a new character.
Or blow up the world.
Yeah.
That's what T.D. Kubo said. Explicitly, that's what his plot-generating device was for the comic Bleach. Because whenever he doesn't know what to do, he just introduces a bunch of new characters.
I do that.
I think that's also how questionable content works.
Oh no.
We're going to save talking about questionable content till later.
Okay.
When I decide to finally suggest an archive binge in questionable content. As a reference point for making nothing happen and having it take forever. That's what it'll be.
Okay, some things happen.
Not really.
Come on, Martin and Claire finally got together. Spoiler warning.
After like
Oh my
4,000
God.
scripts.
Liz, she's only been in the comic for like 3 days.
Oh, questionable content, time frame jokes. Let's get back to It Hurts.
Right.
This reminded me of more than anything was both artistically and content-wise, it was like a meaner version of Superosity. It was like if everybody, it's like if you did Superosity, but everybody was played by Bobby.
I don't know. I think there's kind of playfulness to most of the characters that that misses.
Okay, 90% Bobby, 10% Pumpkin.
I was gonna say maybe like 10% Alan.
Sure.
I'm not familiar enough with Superosity to get these references.
Don't say that. You give Ben ideas.
I like Superosity. I'm not sure I'd suggest it on here.
But you see, Ben, what I'm saying about like the art style.
Yeah, well, the art style, especially in the early strips, kind of jumps around a bit.
But then also, like, you see why, like, I'm saying, like, everybody's just, like, fucking swearing at everybody all the time. And
Yeah, well, the
You
premise
think
to
that-
start with is just, like, foul-mouthed school children goofing around, saying wacky things.
Yeah, like rape threats.
Yeah, actually, there's one line in an early strip, one of the first ones with the character Mark, whose main thing is he sexually harasses Allie, and she's not okay with it.
Oh, it's pronounced Allie.
I'm guessing.
No, that seems right. Since
How
we're-
else?
I'm not sure why, but I was reading it as ally.
Oh.
That's good too.
Yeah.
So he has this line, and I hope you're ready to get raped by, you get, I'm a monster, a sexual villain.
Yeah.
Later, he's murdered by Tubbsy.
Yeah, that was a great
Jack-
part.
It invites the question, though, is it okay to have that kind of humor as long as you at least have one panel of someone calling it out as awful? My answer,
It's
no.
okay to
Well,
have
it's-
that kind of humor even if you don't have that panel calling it out as awful.
Also, it's not one panel. He's consistently portrayed as awful.
Yeah, but so is everybody in the comic.
Not
For instance-
Pasqualo.
For instance, several strips later, Allie says, yeah, I wouldn't mind the rape jokes if they were targeted at anybody other than me.
That's a reasonable thing to put in the mouth of a middle schooler. Like,
Yeah. Like, yeah, I mean,
These are not role models.
hey, Barry, you read the comic. What do you think about things? Say
Well-
some views of yours.
I'd have to say that at the very first I was kind of like in agreement. I figured it seemed like it was trying to be too edgy, but I think you needed to get a little bit past 46 because after a while it just sort of meshes in and becomes this beautiful work of art, and it sort of pops out at you. And
What makes it different and better at 46 or later?
oh, it's just full of surprises, and I'd hate to even I'm not even like Alt F4 this because it's like there's like too many spoilers. I mean, it's pure. It's
I think the official SuggestCast motto is that we spoil things.
nah.
This is true.
Yeah.
But I mean, you could do that if you want, but I kind of
I want you to tell me what you liked about the comic. I want you to tell me what you liked about the comic, because otherwise I don't know how to take your attitude towards the comic.
Well, the fact that it's full of surprises is a very strong point here. It
Okay.
does keep trying to escalate things in unexpected ways. Like the part where Tubbsy murders Mark by just punching his skull out through his head.
That was kind of a surprise, and the way that worked out, I actually was very fond of Mark's character after this. There was a part, where he stopped harassing Allie, and you may have liked it better at that part because it was a different. I'd say that's about like 7 or 8 strips down from where he stopped. Maybe I'm not sure because I just binged it all just now. I mean, that's why I was late joining.
I'm not sure Lewis would have liked that part.
yeah, he still clearly wanted to, but he was unable to due to a man promise.
Right,
Yeah.
like Tubbsy
Still.
threatens unspecified bad things if he harasses Allie again. His way of getting around that is to harass Aurora instead while Allie is around, because that annoys her as well.
But Aurora thought it was very funny. I mean, she didn't. Really,
Yeah, she doesn't mind, so
Yeah.
Does she have a character? Because she didn't really have much of a character in the strips that I read, and then the other thing that you linked me to was her exploding with angelic apocalypse or whatever.
She has more of a character in the post-apocalyptic strips where
she's
just
Actually,
because I haven't seen her.
This comic does have problems with voice. I mean, everybody talks the same voice, which is a lot like questionable content, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know. In questionable content, they all have different ways of being whiny and annoying.
No, I mean, I disagree.
I think.
I mean,
Allie's character was great, all the way through and through, and I think the fact is that everybody around is influenced by Allie. They just they don't really reveal it until later on, and if you just imagine that everybody just wants to be kind of like Allie, then you got some that might be why they all have this similar same voice. And then, of course, Allie and the
she's
clearly the cyborg. They've known each other since 2, so of course they're gonna talk alike and act alike.
Yeah.
So there is.
It's funny how much we've talked about this strip and nobody's even mentioned Pasquale. Like, he's ostensibly the main character, right?
Yeah.
But none of us had anything to say about him, I'm noticing.
He's basically this cheerful, depressed kid.
Yeah.
It's not like a character archetype that makes sense, by the way.
Yeah, it makes sense as you read it more and more. It sort of
because he's a robot.
No, he's a cyborg.
It's a type of robot.
No, it isn't.
It's an Autobot.
Yeah, cyborg is partially robotic.
They explain that in the comic too at one point.
Its mental defense mechanism is to not acknowledge how awful his life is because he doesn't want to. He doesn't want to see his father as the bad guy or his parents as being awful for doing all the awful things that they do to him.
What was up with his dad?
Oh, his dad hates him.
Yeah, and so does his mom later.
Reasons.
Yeah.
No, he doesn't have a good reason. He's just horrible.
Yeah, it is deliberately unjustified.
Okay, I think it might be time to bring Vincent into this dynamic.
And say what's going on here.
Yeah.
I feel like first maybe I should apologize for making my suggestion to read all of the comic because maybe that wasn't fair. I don't know whether you really had to read the whole comic, but on the other hand,
it isn't
I don't know that reading just a few comics really gets across what I got out of this comic. And although it has nothing to do with the huge genre shift in number 100. Like that's an interesting thing about the comic, but that's not what I mentioned it for. There are a couple things I think are interesting in it, and I think they've both been touched on amount. Number one, the tone of the comic is interesting to me. Matt first linked me to one of the later strips, and I read it and did not think it was funny and was kind of annoyed that he even linked it because it just seemed to me like a million other stupid webcomics where it's like, okay, yeah, it's people being inappropriately offensive or whatever. Like,
it's kids, but they swear.
Yeah, well, it was the one where the principal recommends that they do a rap for the talent show, and so the principal was being inappropriate as well. So it's just like, Jesus Christ, this is stupid.
Wait, did he link you to that because of the time you told us about how you rapped at a talent show?
No. I did rap in a talent show once.
Can you tell us what that rap was?
You didn't in the world.
Never mind.
You're thinking of a different rap, though.
Yeah, that
I have an unfortunate history with raps in my childhood, it seems like, because I was thinking of a different circumstance. But
I'm here to say, and then
we're not going to discuss any fink, fank, funk, ding, dang, do.
I think we shouldn't derail this.
Yeah, sorry. Okay, Vincent, tell us why you recommended this thing.
Okay, and my long narrative, how I eventually get around to why I recommend it. I went back to the beginning and started reading, and I don't know why I did that or what made me continue, because it still kind of gives this impression that that's what's going on. It's just like, haha, these kids are like saying offensive stuff. But eventually, and I don't think it took me as long. I mean, Barry's talking about around, strip 40 or something. It certainly didn't take me that long. But eventually it becomes clear that it's not the author's point, that it's not like, ha ha, look at these kids, they're so funny, or man, these are just like me and my friends, this is so cool. And neither is it, man, these kids are so awful, don't you hate these kids? It's neither really like endorsing their way of speaking, and it's not like condemning them for it either. It's just kind of like showing you, here's this group of friends, and this is the way they interact with each other. And I mean, the author's certainly fully aware of where it's problematic, and it does get worked into the narrative. That it's not just all fun and the games to be joking about raping people and saying racist stuff, but it's not moralistic about it either. It's just kind of presents this juvenile attitude towards everything, and that's just the way that the main characters are, and really it's almost kind of just the way the universe is. It's like I say, even the principal who worked there kind of has the same general lackadaisical attitude towards any kind of propriety. He still, swears and says inappropriate things around the kids, and Pasquale's dad's an absolute monster, and most of the characters are. And so I thought that was interesting. It took a while to get. I think that's maybe the reason why I wanted people to read the whole thing. Maybe I shouldn't have made it the whole thing, but I think you have to read a lot before you get past the initial impression that this is just another, I don't know, sort of South Park wannabe comic with, kids being offensive. But the other thing going on with this comic is there's this sort of instantaneous Cerebus syndrome, which is different from, Cerebus syndrome where there's something starts out lighthearted and funny, and then all these past events that seemed minor or irrelevant and silly later become serious and form the part of this more complex narrative. This comic seems to instantaneously take something like that. Like when Tubbsy...
Sorry, what, Ben?
If I can interject for a moment, the proper term is Triangle and Robert syndrome.
Yeah.
And
Sorry, yeah, I talked over your joke there. But like when Tubbsy murders another student, like when it happens, it just seems like really slapsticky and ridiculous. Like that he's punching this student and the student's skull comes through his head. Like it just seems... You wouldn't immediately expect that in the next comic that student is actually dead. Like that this actually happened. You would think that's just kind of like a stylized depiction of a really hard punch to the face. But no, Tubbsy gets arrested and taken to prison, and that has real consequences. When Mark masturbates to the point of ripping his penis off, that seems like just a one-off gag about how sexually excited he was, but then he actually disappears for a while because he has to go to the hospital and have his penis reattached, and it really does later play into, I guess, just how much of a degenerate he is. Like he's a real, he's not just an ordinary, I guess, junior high school student who thinks that all sex is funny and likes to say sexual stuff. Like he's a real creepy bad dude.
Well,
that kind of thing happens a lot, where something will happen that immediately just seems like a goofy one-off gag, but then immediately turns around towards being an important part of the plot.
Yeah, I liked his Pasquale's dad's response to to Tubbo's murder. He's like, I can't believe your friends are so badass.
Yeah, he seems to genuinely like Topsy.
Yeah, he was very disappointed that his son was a friend of his, because that would make him seem like he's cooler or something. But.
Mm-hmm. So that's it. That's what I got.
Okay.
That's interesting. I've been I'd been assuming that the genre shift in the middle would have been part of what was going on with your suggestion.
I mean,
I always use only forward as my example of genre shifts.
I only use Robin Hood Ghosts of Sherwood.
We'll get to which references we referred to later in a minute.
That's right, that was out of order.
But I mean, in a sense, like, the idea, like, there's a sense in which that genre shift in the middle is like an instance of what Vincent was just talking about.
Sort of, except I
You don't expect
think
when it happens that it's literally going to be like 2 strips later that literally everybody that you had known other than like 3 characters are dead.
that could be true. I mean, it's when you read strip 100, it doesn't really, like, I wouldn't have expected everything to go back to normal either, though. But you might be right that you don't expect that that's going to set the tone for the entire rest of the comic. That
Right.
everything we've seen has just been undone.
Yeah, it's definitely a major shock when you read that strip.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, sometime, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thumbs up, Barry, or are you deferring to Carolina, or what?
No, thumbs up. Yeah, thumbs up.
You're like, fuck what South Carolina has to say.
I thought it was South Carolina.
Oh. I don't remember. Okay.
North usually yields to South Carolina, but
Okay, so thumbs up from Barry. Matt, for a bit.
I don't think I'll ever actually use that as a reference point again, but I guess I'll give it a thumbs up because I can't think of another one.
Okay. Ben?
Yeah, I don't know. There's a lot going on with this. I'm not sure what one particular thing I would use it as an example of, but it's definitely strikingly unique. I think this is probably something that will come up in some context. I'm going to give it a thumbs up.
Vincent?
I give it a thumbs up.
I'm going to abstain.
Can't abstain.
well, he didn't finish it, so he's just gonna.
I can abstain. It's fine.
That's true, you can. You have to phrase it in terms of which state you're yielding to.
I'll put it this way.
Whatever he wants.
No, New York abstains courteously. That's how it works.
Yeah.
No, so like if we were still on a majority rules system, then I'd probably give it a thumbs down because I wouldn't ever reference it.
Why not?
Because I won't. But because to me, I feel like Superosity does a lot of the things that Vincent was describing there, where it like takes what seems like it's going to be a one-off gag and runs with it.
It does some of that, but
And I'd be
it
more
has less of the lasting consequences thing.
and
I mean,
I'd
elements will recur, but they don't appear and then just shift the entire tone of everything afterward.
But at any rate, so I am unlikely to reference this a lot for lots of reasons, but I don't want to be sinking it from success, so I abstain.
That's fair.
If we were just doing majority rules, I'd probably give it a thumbs down, but like that's only because everybody else gave it a thumbs up, so my vote wouldn't be doing anything except expressing my own personal like I wouldn't do it. But I abstain. So
Alright, so this suggestion carries.
yeah. Let's talk about Fleiderhaus.
Fleiderhaus, an episode of the podcast Judge John Hodgman.
So who listened to Fleiderhaus?
I did.
I listened to it.
Vincent?
My wife ended up listening to it by default.
Great. I also listened to it back when I was listening to the Judge John Hodgman podcast.
You've stopped listening to it, Ben?
Yeah.
Me too. I would listen to it a lot more if Jesse Thorne wasn't on it, to be honest.
Is that the bailiff?
Yeah.
Matt, sorry, Matt, did you listen to it?
Yeah, I think it's weird. I thought the bailiff was sometimes funnier than John Hodgman.
Oh, see, I'm completely the opposite. I felt like the bailiff totally ruined the they've got this facade that this is a real a judge, and he's coming out to a courtroom and he's deciding a case. But then the bailiff didn't maintain decorum at all. You know what I mean? Like the bailiff didn't even really seem to be playing along with that.
Yeah, he's basically a co-host who doesn't really see what he's supposed to be doing, I think.
I thought that was a real weakness of the show. I thought the bailiff was a very sore point for me.
Vincent, I'll just say this. There are episodes where there's a guest bailiff instead. You might want to listen to those episodes and see if Monty Belmonte is a more pleasurable version of the gimmick for you. But that's neither here nor there. You guys should talk about that episode more.
Yeah, okay, so one thing that surprised me re-listening to this was just how little time of this episode is actually doing the courtroom stuff. There's a lot of filler material in there talking about like fundraising or other maximum fund stuff.
Yeah, I assume that's unusual, but that was a little
I had
annoying
forgotten
to sit
that
through.
was a...
I think a lot of episodes are like that.
Yeah.
Oh,
Which is a problem a lot of podcasts have.
Yeah,
I had forgotten it
was
was during the
huge
Max
chunk.
Fun Pledge Drive, which took up a lot of time, but yeah.
Yeah, it took almost, I would say it took up a lot, like almost half, it felt like. And they were in Judge Hodgman's chambers, just going on and on. It's over a full minute at the beginning, before the episode even starts.
Yeah.
I will stop listening right there.
Yeah, Lewis, this is why I've shortened the outro portion on RequestCast.
Okay.
One problem that I had with this web podcast, probably because I didn't really listen to like many episodes before. In fact, Lewis had mentioned this before, and I listened to some episode of this, but I can't even remember which one it was. But I only listened to one. But one problem I had is that the judge just seems so rude. But he's not a real judge. He's just some guy who's like doing a shtick there. But for some reason, like it would initially rub me the wrong way. Like I'd be like, Jesus, what's this guy's fucking problem? And then I'd be like, oh, right, it's just a joke. It was kind of like my instant reaction was, geez, this is being so disrespectful of these people.
You're trying to break actual judge standards into us.
See, I also had the opposite reaction of you there. I thought he wasn't mean enough. I saw him being sort of mean, but I was like, go all the way, keep going. But then he backs off. And
I don't know.
I feel like upset me that he wasn't willing to go that extra length to like drive home that he's a really mean guy as a judge. He's just sort of half-heartedly making fun of him.
I could see that, and maybe that's part of what the problem was, because he didn't go far enough. When he did do it, then it just seemed like kind of, this, I don't know what I want to say, but incongruently nasty. Because, sometimes he seemed to be maintaining, like, judicial temperament, and other times it was just kind of like, you all be crazy.
Yeah, that's why I don't have a problem with the bailiff, because John Hodgman doesn't do that great of a job of keeping up the appearance either.
Oh, he does a better job than the bailiff, though.
He's
Oh, he does a better job, but that's just more half-assedness. It's like, I'm not going to give $500 to this guy's Patreon if he's not going to go all the way.
Do you think it would be a better podcast then if the judge were a more two-dimensional character?
We'll get there.
Vincent, hold on to your horse.
Yeah, Vincent, I've got an actual character to recommend for that.
That
We'll get to it.
crossover.
Yeah.
I think the callers in this case were actually pretty good. I think they landed a good, reasonably good. I don't know if the dispute was that great, but the dispute was pretty good. I thought the differing character of the two brothers was pretty good because they were so different. And the second brother, I thought he was a really funny guy to have on there. I mean, obviously at some point he
Which one
agreed to be on
the
the show, and he probably listens to the show, but he just seems so indifferent to the fact that he was on a show. Or
the second brother is the one who was throwing dictionaries at the bat.
yeah.
Let's call him the violent one.
Yeah, I mean, if I had to pick the best part of the show, I think it was the second brother.
And we don't want to fill this dead air by responding to Vincent, or...
No.
I think we're all agreed on that.
Yeah.
We agree so hard, it's not even worth saying.
That brother
I
had
don't
all
know.
figured out.
Yeah, the best thing to do on an audio podcast, you agree silently. I
Well, that's how you know that we're all good friends, because, if you know people well enough, you don't really even need to talk to express your opinions, even over video chat, where you can't
Yeah, we've all seen Pulp Fiction. Maybe Louis should tell us what's going on, why he suggested this.
it was because of the
At that point, why you suggested this one particularly instead of Judge John Hodgman in general.
Oh yeah, no, well because of the second. This suggestion was not about Judge John Hodgman, which I think there's better episodes to illustrate what he does interesting or not, and they typically wouldn't involve as much Max Fun Drive and Jesse Thorne being Jesse Thorne, which I have a lot of trouble tolerating. You may have checked
He's a
shaved.
thorn in your side.
What?
You might say he's a thorn in your side.
Oh my God! Yeah. Can I suggest that we all go to Texas and hit Matt for that as a suggestion?
When he mentioned, John Hodgman was reading my mind, as it on the bridge in Austin, because that was the first thing I thought when I heard the word bat.
Yeah.
Yeah, me too.
So,
I've seen that bridge.
So I was mostly suggesting this episode because of the second brother, but also because of the contrast between the second brother and the first brother. So, the first brother got on my nerves a lot. A lot.
With his doctored evidence?
No, I was actually kind of annoyed at how that... I mean, it was annoying. Doing that led to an annoying part of the show, but it wasn't so much him that was annoying me there. No. So, there was the part where Judge John Hodgman makes a joke about the upside-down bat house. And the other one wants to show how clever he is by referencing something from Hodgman's book.
Yes.
That was really obnoxious behavior, I thought. He was really bad at... The show works best when people are playing the straight man against Judge John Hodgman being, this wacky setup of a judge who rules on these cases. The show works best when people are just straightforward and serious, and not, trying to make a joke out of it. And he was trying to make a joke out of it. And this is what I loved about the other brother, the second brother. The level of matter-of-factness with which he described murdering bats, and his total indifference to everything in the case, and he was just such a funnier part of the show because he didn't give a fuck, compared to the other guy who's trying so hard and making it worse in trying.
Yeah.
I mean, I think we can all agree that jokes are not very funny compared to the lack of jokes.
Yeah.
Well, non-jokes are usually funnier than shitty jokes. I think we can agree on that.
Well, being honest is a lot better than being a suck-up. Unless you're an extraordinary suck-up, then it's funny.
No, but the suck-up guy, he was being honest in a certain sense. That's who he was. He was...
No, I think that's way too harsh a judgment. I think that guy probably just... He just didn't know how to deal with it. I don't know if he would really be that unbearable in real life.
Yeah, well, I mean, he's a non-celebrity. He's not going to be that funny on the spot.
There's an episode that I really liked where a mom and her son are on there because she wants him to stop farting when other people are in the room. And he's 28 or 30 or something. Awesome. He thinks it's why he hasn't found someone yet. It's fantastic. But like, at any rate, sorry, that was just a funny thing that came to mind.
Well, I mean, it sounded like you were saying that this guy was a worthless human being because he sucked on this John Hodgman podcast.
No, he's fine. I just meant I didn't think he was like pretending. I thought like he really is the sort of guy who tries to make those sorts of jokes. So I don't think he was like failing to be honest, but I think he just wasn't the right personality type to be one of the, the plaintiff or whatever.
Well, that's their fault. They should have screened their guests better.
I agree. But the second, I think it's like Noah and Adam, and I think Adam was the second one. Like, that is a personality type that I wish was more of a stock personality type in fiction.
Oh. I've known a lot of those guys in real life.
Say more?
Like people who are just really matter-of-fact about, everything that they do.
It's okay. Fair enough. Anyway, that's why I suggested it, was just because, like, that guy, like, he clearly had the level of willingness to participate where he would get on Skype and do it. Like, some people just, like, would be indifferent enough to be like, no, I'm not going to, do this. But then, like, not enough to, like, care at all about how it went. Like, he didn't seem like he cared if he won or not. Like, he was just like, I'll answer your questions, buddy. Yeah, of course he threw a rock. And, like, his plan where he's just like, I just want to put some poison in there, and then they'll all die from the poison. I don't know. I thought, like, that was an amazing human being to get to see, and it worked so well on the show, even though he clearly didn't care at all how the show turned out. Anyway, that was why I suggested that episode, is because of the second brother.
Interesting.
I can see your point. It's interesting. I mean, this wasn't a fictional narrative, but that does seem to be a problem that comes a lot with fictional narratives. And it's almost like the first brother was treating it like, well, he was at least treating it like a narrative, like he wanted to be a character and tell a story and stuff like that, instead of just honestly answering questions, which was sort of the problem. But in fictional narratives, especially in courtroom situations, that does seem to be a pretty common problem, that they never just have a character who comes out and bluntly answers questions and stuff. Like, they always turn it into some kind of a drama involving some more complicated or deeper issue. Like in the movie Amistad, which is the legal case is really just about the property issue of whether these slaves still count as slaves or whether they became free men when whatever happened. I don't remember whatever. But then they act like the case is about whether there should be slavery or not, when that wasn't the issue in the case. That's not what anyone was deciding. Boy, I kind of took that off and derailed it. But, I mean, that's like the first brother. I mean, he goes on and on about how scary it was that this bat came out when he was on the toilet, and that has nothing to do with the controversy. The controversy is how do they get rid of the bats, not is it scary. What's that?
When Hodgman asked him to like do the shriek that he did,
yeah, he wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
Well, he wouldn't take it seriously.
Right.
He claims that he went like, "Ee."
Yeah.
Yeah, that made me
You could hear Hodgman roll his eyes at that point.
I think he should have been a lot meaner to him about that.
And in fact, the only time in the episode that Jesse Thorne wasn't immensely bothering me was when he was laughing in response to Noah matter-of-factly announcing that he just throws a book at the back. And he just couldn't hold it in. He was like, "Oh my god, that's hysterical," and he wasn't doing his joke-em-ups.
Although I didn't like that either, because I felt like that was breaking character for the bailiff. I thought that they should treat the evidence before them totally seriously.
Man, I guess I'm the only person who didn't take the premise very seriously at all going into it. Like, when I started listening to it, I did not expect them to even try to hold up the image of being a real judge or anything like that.
There was
Well,
this.
I mean, they do. They say he's coming out of his chambers. They have the gavel noise. I mean, they do try to act like it's a real courtroom situation.
Yeah, they discuss the evidence being presented.
Mm-hmm.
There was a stretch of the show where they got too many disputes between like husbands and wives or boyfriends and girlfriends, and it was all when Jerry Seinfeld's show The Marriage Ref got canceled, and they made a whole thing about how basically the podcast had turned into a much more successful version of The Marriage Ref.
I've never heard of this show.
And it was that people would call in. The people would like call into Jerry Seinfeld's show about like disputes they were having in their marriage, and then he would like be the referee to tell them who should do what and like who was in the wrong and who was in the right. And it turned out it doesn't work very well as a TV show with Jerry Seinfeld, but it actually were some of the better episodes of Judge John Hodgman podcast, especially because 90% of the time it was clear that the husband was being an idiot. At any rate, so, yeah. I have other more complex feelings about the Judge John Hodgman podcast in general. But, like, the reason I suggested this episode was less about Judge John Hodgman and more about the second brother, who I just thought was, like, an amazing... A character is the wrong word because he's just, like, a real person, but, like, that personality type, I couldn't stop getting a kick out of that.
You know, I in some perverse way hope that your words reach both brothers, and the Tryhard brother is hurt very much by your endorsement of his other brother. His brother. Like, but I was trying so hard to be funny.
Well, there are two of them, so odds are good that at least one listens to SuggestCast.
Oh. I don't know if you know how odds work, Ben, but...
That's
all right,
who's better than one.
Sum it up here. Vincent?
Yeah, you were so polite to abstain from voting down mine, but I gotta vote this down. Even though I see what you're saying, I don't think I would ever refer back to this guy as for that kind of character.
Okay. Is it that you can think of a better archetype of that character, or just that that's not a thing you need to reference?
I don't know that it's. I think like it's almost so common that it's not something I would reference by referring to a person. I mean, it's almost like if you saw a guy on a show who was cheerful and then said, I would refer to that guy as an example of cheerfulness, but
okay,
I don't.
Fair enough. Matt?
Yeah, if I had to make a reference to this guy's personality, I would just use Randy, my old boss from Kroger, who had this guy's like exact personality.
Oh,
like,
we all know what you're talking about.
Matt, you understand that?
You don't...
Matt, you understand that if you needed to explain this to somebody and you told them about how there was a guy Randy versus linking them to the episode and telling them like just listen to the second brother, like there'd be a big difference
Right.
whether or not they'd.
But I think that
Randy might be a better example. He's just harder to share.
Oh man, I wish I could share Randy. He was hilarious. But
would you say he's kind of like the second brother in this episode?
no, he's like a better version of him.
Bam! You still got the reference to the second brother.
Yeah.
You know.
Go for it.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. So this is a thumbs down from you as well.
Oh man, I wish I could give it a thumbs up, but I
Okay.
just don't know when I would ever use the reference.
Yeah. Ben.
Okay, I'm going to give this one a thumbs up because a little while ago I saw a play that I liked, but I didn't like the amount of jokes that it had in it for similar reasons to it not liking people trying to joke around in this episode. And I feel like this would be a more accessible way of explaining that, not just because I can link somebody to this podcast more easily than I can tell them to go watch a particular play in a theater, but
Well,
also
you know
because I
what?
think this is a clear example of it. Like, I've talked about that play with some people who saw it, and they disagreed to some extent, led to a big discussion. I think with this, it's much clearer that the person trying to joke around is doing a disservice to the premise.
I see.
You know what? I'm going to revise my answer. I'm going to give it a thumbs up based on Ben's assessment because he's right. I don't think that the second brother's personality alone is something I would reference, but this is a good reference point for displaying. It's a good juxtaposition of the two different takes of the guy who's trying to be funny and is ruining the show, and then the guy who's not putting any effort into his presentation, and then the show goes well. So I think it is a good reference point for that. I'll give it a thumbs up.
Right. Gallant takes the premise seriously. Goofus goofs around.
Matt, do you also revise your vote?
I guess.
You don't have to. I was just curious.
I was considering it when you asked me, but I don't like to sound like I'm just agreeing with somebody.
Yeah. Lewis, I'll ask you to refrain from badgering the witness.
Quit doctoring my evidence. Wait, which way did you go, Matt?
Yes.
Courtroom.
Up. I went up.
All right, I'm going up as well.
All right,
Is
Barry.
Barry still here?
Yeah.
I'd have to. I didn't watch it, so I'm gonna leave.
You're gonna abstain courteously.
Yes, indeed.
All right.
All right.
So,
What's next?
All right. So
is
next,
Vincent two-dimensional character search?
right.
Oh,
we should
the
probably
reverse
do that so we
suggestion.
can get into.
I was
So-
glad tonight that I did not suggest anything, and of course to yield my suggestion and roll over the past suggestion because I really enjoyed that comic. So.
Okay, so I came up with one that I think might work for Vincent's second suggestion.
Right, and to recap, the thing we're trying to find an example of here is a two-dimensional character who works well as a character by virtue of being two-dimensional.
Yeah, my choice is the Lorax.
The one who speaks for the trees?
Yep.
Very good place.
Hmm.
Although
I think that character is strong in virtue of having basically a single principle that is operant behind everything they do. He only cares about protecting nature. That's his whole shtick. And I think it would be weaker, both as a character and as a story, if you tried to add any further depth to him. Unlike the Onceler, who I think when you add the depth of revealing that he was the one telling the story at the end or whatever,
Spoiler warning.
it's the Lorax. Like that benefits the story, but I don't think there's any way to add depth to the Lorax that makes him a better character. So that was what I came up with.
Are you referring to the movie or the book?
Well, I'm referring to either the original animated movie,
Yeah.
not the CGI one, or the book.
Okay, that's cool.
I haven't seen the new one. I've only seen that one song from it about how it's okay to be evil.
I liked that song.
It's got a good message.
Yeah.
So,
It isn't actually pro-evil. Like, there's subtext that you might have been missing.
yeah, that's probably true. So I don't know, Vincent, should you score our suggestions and then we'll also vote later? Like, does that seem like what you were looking for? I don't know.
I don't know that. I don't think that I should be the arbiter of what's the right one for it. Maybe we just open it up for discussion.
Yeah.
I think the Lorax is a good example of that. I don't know if I'd want to use it as the archetype because what I don't want is to give the impression that this is something that only happens with simple stories or children's stories. You know what I mean? Like I think this is a more generalizable concept.
Yeah, and I should say I don't think you could pick just like any character from a children's story and do it, because I think in a lot of children's stories, if you complexified the characters, it would be, like added depth. It would make them more interesting or better. I think the Lorax happens to be in a relatively unique position where having him do anything but be the voice of the trees would detract from his role in the story.
I'm not sure I'd call the Lorax a good character, though. It's a good story. And
He's a great character.
Yeah, I like him a lot.
He's much beloved.
Yeah.
and how much of that is just due to his visual design?
Outside of Oregon, he's much beloved.
I'll tell you along the same lines. I think the Grinch is pretty two-dimensional, even though he goes through that character change at the very end. It's not a very complexly motivated thing. He just gets filled with the spirit of Christmas. If you contrast his depiction in like the original cartoon or the book with like the movie, where they give him this whole backstory of being mistreated by the townspeople and all that bullshit.
I did have good.
It's a good case where he's a much more interesting character and a better subject of the story when he's kept fairly simple.
Okay.
I think that's probably true with every Dr. Seuss story they fucked with and turned into a stupid movie.
What about the Cat in the Hat?
I haven't seen the movie, but I'm sure it's a bunch of bullshit.
I guarantee you that if they added depth to the cat, they did it wrong. I'll say that. If the cat has more going on than hijinks on a rainy day, they have sorely misunderstood the appeal of the book.
Well, they reveal that he was abused as a child.
The Grinch was he was dealing with noise complaints, and he had good reason. That's really all it was to it. I mean.
Okay, so it sounds like people. Well, I don't know. So other people want to weigh in on the Lorax in particular.
I've never read the Lorax or seen any of the movies.
What?
It's a it's a good one. It's definitely worth check out.
Okay, so Lewis is going to suggest Lorax movies this week.
Probably just a 30-minute short.
I'm gonna link, of
course, the movie
to the animated version of the Lorax so you can just see it.
All right.
But that's a recommendation, not a suggestion.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're getting into no man's land here.
All right. So that was mine. Anybody else want to proffer one?
Oh, yeah, I had one. Anton Chigurh from No Country for Old Men.
Oh, I think that's a good one.
Is that Chubakov?
It's
Ben?
It's the killer guy who has the coin that he flips.
And the pneumatic murder device?
Yeah, it's this...
He kills people like a bicycle pump or something? I don't remember what it was. It was air-powered.
Right, anyway, he's just this amoral killer guy, or maybe amoral isn't quite right. He does have some sort of code he goes by.
It's the code of being surprising that one of the most handsome men in the world is playing that character. That's the code he lives by.
You think he's one of the most handsome men in the world?
Really?
I think that if you compare the publicity stills for Vicky Cristina Barcelona with a publicity still of him in No Country for Old Men, you'd be like, I refuse to believe that this is the same human being.
And you really got a thing for Javier Bardem, huh?
He's an attractive man.
Then go on.
Not doing it for
Let's not get disrailed by Lewis's confusing sexuality.
It's not that confusing.
I'm just capable of evaluating the attractiveness of people of multiple genders.
Yeah, well, I am too. I just don't think he's that attractive. I mean, he's an attractive person. Just don't think I'd...
It's fair to say that we all know what boys like, and we all know what guys want, all right? So let's just move on.
I think that's a good example. I think
I
Anton
thought of
Chigurh is
this
a
one
good one.
because not only is he pretty two-dimensional, but I remember when that movie came out, everybody was talking about that character in particular.
Yeah,
It's
I'm gonna
captivating.
Yeah, I think the only drawback to that is that I think there's a bit of a No Country for Old Men backlash lately, where people felt like the movie got better critical reception than it should have.
And that might be true, but...
No, yeah, so I don't think it actually detracts from the accuracy of your thing, but, it does potentially complicate attempting to use it as an example. Just because it might derail into people talking about how the movie was overrated. I'm not saying the movie was overrated, I'm just saying it's a conversation I've heard a lot lately.
Well, I haven't heard much of that, but in that backlash, is it against this character in particular, or other things about the movie?
I think it's. I mean, in a sort of sense, it's that like the complaint that I've heard is like, it's a lot of nothing happening in the movie. I think that's what I remember people saying.
Yeah, well, I don't think that really weakens this then, because like if it's true that the plot is kind of unsatisfying and not much is going on, but the movie was well received at the time, maybe that's because of the strength of this character.
That's a fair point.
And he's certainly more interesting than the protagonist,
That seems right.
who I can't remember much about.
He got a bunch of money.
Oh, okay, I take back what I said then.
I think that's a good one. And actually, that's not like the one I was thinking of is kind of along the same lines in a way. I was thinking of the Joker from Batman, who they've occasionally given backstory to try to explain why he is the way he is, and et cetera, et cetera. But then they always eventually, they always come around to getting rid of that and saying, like, no, that's not really true, or that was made up, or maybe we don't even know whether that's real. It could just be bogus.
I like the Joker's line about how if he has to have a past, he'd prefer for it to be multiple choice.
Yeah. I think the Joker is much more interesting as a inexplicable, just sort of thing that fell out of the sky, totally wacky and evil and malevolent without any particular reason for it. Than if.
I mean, he usually falls off of a catwalk into a vat of chemicals, right?
Well, yeah, the reason why he became deformed or whatever, I think, is established. But the reason why he was a villain before that, right? I guess it depends maybe on it depends on the story that you're getting. But his deformity may or may not be related to his mental illness. In any case, I don't think it gives him a terrific amount of depth to say that some chemicals fell on him and it made him a wacky monster.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think a lot of
Yeah.
these examples are going to have in common that the character is basically just this force.
Yeah.
Acting on the world. Like, even the Lorax, kind of.
See, but I think it's interesting because the Lorax doesn't, like, the Lorax is basically impotent on his own. Whereas these other characters are sort of just actors. The Lorax is just a speaker. You know, unless someone like you cares a whole awful lot, you know, something, something, end of that couplet.
Yeah, the Lorax doesn't do anything for anybody. The Lorax just, gets kicked around.
Yeah.
And leaves.
He is the ineffectual attempt at rational persuasion in a capitalist economy.
Yeah.
He's a metaphor.
I'm trying to think of other examples of characters that are like that. I'm sure there are, but I can't think one. But I think that there probably is a broad category of characters who are important, though two-dimensional, because they embody a particular idea or point of view.
Oh,
Maybe
like
something,
Gaia
someone
in
in like
Captain Planet.
1984. Well, I can't think of who it would be. Well, but you think like Animal Farm, I guess you could say like there are tons of characters in Animal Farm who are really just two-dimensional representations of parts of society, but if you gave them any more particular depth or personality, they would lose their ability to represent broad swaths of people,
Yeah.
So like Boxer the horse is a pretty two-dimensional character. He's just, I'm going to work hard and do whatever the people I trust tell me to do, and then
I'll get rewarded
gets
by the
injured and
party.
gets sold to the glue factory. If they added in that Boxer was a Buddhist and, liked to write poetry and secretly was in love with a horse down the street or something, like none of that would improve the character.
Right. That seems right. All right, Matt, do you have one?
Can I go with my gut and say Judge Dredd from 2000 AD is he is the law, and it's like 2000 AD in Mega City 1, everything's corrupt. Like, everybody's a criminal trying to get away with something, and Judge Dredd is just like, the fact that he is two-dimensional is what makes him the hero, because his inability to change makes him incorruptible. And like in a normal story, Judge Dredd would be the villain because he's like this authoritarian bully who like makes the harshest judgments on people for the smallest infractions. But in the world of 2000 AD, that makes him the hero because everything else is so comparatively awful.
Have you seen the movie, the recent one?
I kept meaning to watch it. It's not on Netflix.
No, but I'd recommend it. I thought it was a pretty good movie, and I think it captures what you were just saying about the character.
Yeah.
And he's played by the new Bones from the new Star Trek movies.
I've read that they're still trying to make a sequel, even though the movie itself wasn't very successful.
That'd be a fine plan for them.
Mm.
So yeah, I think Judge Dredd. I think it fits into Vincent's prediction that it's going to be, or maybe it was Ben's, that it's just going to be beings who are a force. Like,
yeah.
He just is the law. That's his.
Like there were these little Judge Dredd strip comics where they would just have a comic strip about him. And there's this one in particular where there's this group of judges who judge judges that go around and inspect all of the other judge quarters, and Judge Dredd, in all of his free time, just spends it just sitting in a bare room reading the law book. Like, Judge Dredd has got possessions besides what is absolutely essential to have as a human being, and a law book. That's all he cares about.
Nice. Okay. So I think this is a good range of examples. Barry, did you have one?
Well, I had a couple quivered in my head, and I finally stuck with Bruce Brubaker in The Toughest Man in the World, and here's a little bit of him.
Struggle to survive. You can play to win or just give in. Let the city eat you alive. You can make it to tomorrow if you take care of today. You have a shot if you have got what it takes to break away. Because the toughest man.
But yeah, that's pretty much him in a nutshell. He's the toughest man in the world, and he's played by Mr. T, which he kind of, and it kind of like a sort of thing. He kind of plays himself, and through the whole movie, people are suggesting things to him, and he's just like, "What that?" And he's like straight to the point, and I think the whole thing was sort of like maybe I'd like to think that maybe if the film was in the 2000s or the 90s, you wouldn't have quite as much of an example of him as a character, but I've seen him in other movies. He can perform it quite well, but I think Bruce Brubaker in The Toughest Man in the World is his first, full feature where he wasn't just Clubber Lang, though he also played that very well. That's another good example.
Yeah.
In Rocky III, which that's probably somewhat ones that people might be able to relate to in here, but
yeah. One thing I think is interesting is that Matt is the only one whose suggestion was like a protagonist.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like, the Lorax is a good guy, but he's not the protagonist of the story. I guess the Onceler's actually the protagonist of the story. That's messed up.
I mean, well, kind of. It's sort of a frame story, isn't it?
Yeah, because at the end the little kid gets the seed, but...
Yeah.
But, like, of the bulk of the story, it's like you're watching the tragedy of the Onceler not realizing how bad his decisions are, rather than, like... It's not really about the Lorax and his actions.
He's watching the wacky Lorax and his mishaps.
And then, like, the Joker, or... Ben, what was yours again? Oh, Andrew.
Sugar.
Right, like, they are, like, everybody else's were, like, either the villain or, like, just, not clearly not, like, the character who's, like, the protagonist, but Matt's, well, and I guess I don't know enough about the context of the
Toughest Man in the World.
Is he the protagonist in that?
And in that one, yes. But if we revert to Clubber Lang, then no. We'll revert it to Clubber Lang just for historical, documental reasons. But.
I also thought about like Arnold Schwarzenegger's character in Commando, but like I feel like that's a weird example to use because it's that it would make it less successfully campy if his character had more depth, and wasn't just like neutral action hero.
One thing that's difficult about it is, when we're talking about whether a character is two-dimensional or not, it's not like there's a clear line there, and you kind of sometimes rate it by other people who are in the work, and the protagonist is usually going to be one of the better developed characters in the work. Like, generally speaking, the way Batman's depicted, I would consider to be a fairly two-dimensional character. Like,
yeah, I thought
he's got the background,
too.
but once he's established, he's just the guy who goes around fighting crime in a suit and all that stuff. He's not terribly complicated most of the time.
Well,
in a different story, I'd call him two-dimensional, but within his own narrative, he's probably one of the more complicated characters.
Yeah,
and don't forget Joker's boner either. That was some pretty insane stuff there.
Yeah. Okay, so now I think it's time to thumbs up or down the Vincent's suggestion.
Or I guess figure out who we think is the best suggestion.
Yeah, I don't even know how you can thumbs up or down this. Like,
I'll just thumbs up it.
I mean, that's sort of a referendum on the idea of bringing these reverse suggestions in.
Yeah.
I thought we got some good discussion out of it. So, we're having some problems with dead air this episode. I think everybody's starting to get afraid to talk over each other.
Yeah. We can edit that out in post.
Sure.
But we won't. Also, I'm not sure we can.
I mean, an industrious fan can figure it out.
Yeah.
So it won't happen.
Whenever there's dead air, just stop thinking or feeling or experiencing anything until we start talking again.
Okay, so let's figure out what the thumb up or thumb down right now is going to be.
Right, like, is this, would you refer back to one of these characters as an example of a successful two-dimensional character?
If it's that, then I think I'm going to give it a thumbs up.
Yeah.
Okay, but would you refer back to the process of trying to find an example of a successful two-dimensional character?
No. If it's that, then I'd give it a thumbs down.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we're all on the same page there.
But I'm okay with SuggestCast including things like this, and then I think the right way to vote on them is something like we vote for among our suggestions which one is the best example of that to reference.
Yeah, that's what I think makes sense here.
So instead of a thumbs up or thumbs down, we're just going to see where people fall on which of these is the best successful two-dimensional character.
Right, but with an option in the voting for voting that you don't think this was an important concept.
Right. Yes. Okay, so Ben, why don't you start?
All right, I'm voting for my own one.
Which was Shigurov?
Yeah, I think that's the example that I would use in referring back to this in the future.
Okay, Matt?
I have to abstain because I've never seen the Lorax or No Country for Old Men or the Mr. T thing.
And he's never heard of Batman.
And you don't know about the Joker either? Is that...
No, I know about the Joker.
Yeah, so he'd be leaned in towards to decide Joker's boner. Just as I,
Okay, Vincent?
Boner always wins.
I like Shigur because it's a popular, well-known character. It's from a well-respected movie. I like getting away from ones that would suggest that two-dimensional characters only work in juvenile literature or stuff for kids. Yeah, so I think Shigur is the best one.
Okay, Barry?
Yeah, Joker. Yeah, Joker's boner.
Okay. And I'm actually going to go with Matt's suggestion of Judge Dredd, because I think it does a really good job. The example that he gave of showing how you could have a character where making them more complex would weaken the character, in part because of the context that they're surrounded by, and like just having them have one character trait is what's needed for that to be the strongest version of the character.
Yeah, Judge Dredd is pretty solid. That would be my second vote, if we got more than one.
You can have more
I
than
think the suggestions were generally pretty good.
yeah. Like, I like my Lorax suggestion, but I don't like it as much as I like Judge Dredd as an example. So. All right,
Okay.
now, God damn it. Can we have Ben's? Ugh, I'm so tired.
All right. So the next suggestion to discuss, in fact, the last one for tonight,
Yeah.
was our past suggestions.
Right.
Is to go over the things that have been suggested in the past and see if any of them are things that you have, in fact, had occasion to refer back to.
All right, we're gonna do it this way. You get a maximum of 4 that you can mention,
Mhm.
because we don't have time for everybody to do go through all of them.
Wow, you're assuming people might have more than 4?
I'm
You're assuming that people might even have one.
I was going to put the over-under at like 2.
right. Well,
All right, Lewis, would you like to go first?
sure. Now I'm fortunate in that I have a restricted subset of this because I haven't done all of them because I didn't watch all of them. I wasn't.
Oh, but you still heard our discussion, and you.
No, because I didn't watch all the ones that I missed.
Well, my suggestion for next week is for you to go back and watch every episode. That might take more than a week.
I probably won't do that.
I know I wouldn't.
So I'm going to say Jim Woodring's Frank comics. Oh, and I'm not going to include any of mine, because obviously mine I thought were good. So Jim Woodring's Frank comics. Let's see. A bunch of anime I didn't watch. Who suggested Meanwhile by Jason Shigo? Was that you, Ben?
I think so.
Yeah.
Okay.
Have you referred back to that as an example of things?
I refer back to that a lot.
Okay.
And Maze. I think those are the 3 that I would point to. Yeah, as being the most referent. Oh, and the Book a Minute, Movie a Minutes I've referred to. So those will be my 4.
All right, who's next?
Vincent, you're next.
Okay. Now, I'm going to exclude my own, too, because the ones I picked are usually things that I'd referred to a lot anyway.
Right.
What I noticed when I went back through is that the ones I've actually referenced are almost, I think they might be entirely ones that I thumbs down as things I would not reference again.
For example,
You didn't reference them for the reasons that they were suggested, which is a problem. The same problem I had.
Like, Welcome to Night Vale, I've referenced again. No, I did give that a thumbs up, though.
You did. Very
I just
reluctant.
hated it. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I've referenced that. Oh, sorry. I have referenced Only Forward, although I think it's more just because, not because I really think it's a great reference, but because we've all read it now, and so but even this episode I made reference to Only Forward. Trolling for Dollars I've referenced in several times. When the issue of trolling comes up, I'll just make some reference to it as to whether someone is gaining points or whatever.
That one you did thumb down and specifically said you couldn't see yourself referencing it.
Yeah. And the Mountain Goats, actually, I've referenced before in conversations with people.
Yes! Nice. I like how many of the suggestions of mine that you just didn't like wound up being ones that you referenced.
Yeah, I mean, it suggests to me, well, maybe I shouldn't use the word suggest, it could be confusing.
It recommends to you?
It leads me to believe that you need some distance before you can really give a good accounting for whether these concepts are going to be valuable in the future or not. I don't know that we can really change the format so that we wait a month before we thumbs up or thumbs down something, but it was interesting to me, at least, that I was
we could
pretty much
periodically
wrong.
do this sort of thing to get that sense.
What's that?
We could periodically do the sort of thing we're doing right now to get a sense of that.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah, that's like.
How about you, Ben? What have you referenced?
All right. Well, I think the only ones that I've actually referenced in the sort of contexts that they were suggested to try to be examples of are Who Censored Roger Rabbit and Robin Hood: Ghosts of Sherwood.
Yes.
There are several others that I have recommended to people after encountering them through SuggestCast and liking them, like Snuffbox, the comics about Vincent's penis, and so on.
First we will devour the architects, then the firemen, and so on in that fashion. Okay, so those are the two, is Ghost of Sherwood and, what was the other one?
Who Censored Roger Rabbit.
Okay.
Oh, and Kyber's trolling thing, but that was already something that...
And it was yours.
Yeah, so that doesn't really count.
Okay. Matt?
If I have to exclude all of the things that I suggested myself, I really can't say that I've referred back to any of these, except I have recommended a lot of them to other people I know as recommendations and not references to them because I like them.
Yeah, I think that it's easier for them to get into that category.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I can't say I've really made reference to any of these.
I want to mention, of the ones that I mentioned, I think Maze sort of wins as the one that I have talked about most in terms of it.
I've talked about Maze, but why was Maze suggested?
That was for artistic reasons.
Yeah, but
Not really.
it's not just that I recommend it to people, it's that I use it as a reference point for a certain sort of, like, book that I don't know any other, like, archetypal examples of. Like, I use it as a reference, even though it's not necessarily the thing that Vincent was recommending it for, which is the artwork.
Yeah, you should try the Lego Movie. It's pretty close to Maze.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Well, the novelization of the Lego Movie, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah. Basically, like the Lego Movie, you know, they were reading Maze when they came up with it.
All right, it's enough of that horse shit.
Okay. Barry.
Obviously Maze, and I don't know. I mean, the episode about the day the Earth froze. I mean, you know, all the time. You know, I ask people about Sampo, and you know, like throughout like the rest of my life after watching it, it's just like, hey, where's Sampo? And then also I'm walking around, and sometimes I sing the song about how I'm sorry that I blew up Sampo, and you know, in my head, and then of course the when they bring back the goose and they say it's a TV dinner, it's a Swansong frozen dinner, and you know, through that whole thing, I haven't actually recommended the video, but it's become a part of my daily strategy on how to survive in this world.
All right.
I don't know. I'm looking through the list here, and I think between those two, that's probably enough for me to talk about. So I'll stop there.
That sounds good. All right. Now it's time for new suggests.
Well, no, it's time for thumbs up, thumbs down.
Oh yeah.
How do we do that? This is another mystery vote.
No, this one we're thumbing or thumbs downing the process of evaluating after the fact the suggestions.
Of looking back at our history now that we're on SuggestCast number 20.
You know what, this
but
is a
then
lot
this
like,
again,
it's
this
a
is
lot like
something
on
I think we're talking about whether it's something we want to do on the show, not whether we're going to refer back to this process in discussing someone. So I'm going to give this a thumbs up as a good idea. We should do this every once in a while.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thumbs up is fine.
Yeah.
This is a lot like that show Motor Week where they'll go back and have a long-term review of a car that they reviewed earlier.
Now that might be a better example of this to use.
It's also like a clip episode, like a sitcom clip episode.
Yeah, like on Community.
Yeah.
Regardless, I'll give it a thumbs up. Let's do this later.
Yeah. Thumbs up. All right, now time to do some new suggestions. Ben.
All right, so my suggestion for this week is a blog post by Raphael Bob Waxberg, the guy who made BoJack Horseman.
Which we all now agree is an amazing show, right?
I agree with that. I'm not suggesting it. I'm suggesting this particular blog post he made in 2010 about the show Sister Sister.
What?
And I'm assuming that we're all already familiar with Sister Sister.
I'm familiar with the theme song.
Great.
But yes, I'm familiar with it.
And
Okay.
I'll be putting a link in the episode description below.
Okay.
Okay.
To be fair, I haven't referenced the theme song from Sister Sister for probably over a decade.
All right, I want to go to bed. So, Vincent, what's your suggestion?
Hey, briefly, this is not a suggestion we need to come back and discuss next week, but I'm going to suggest that over the next week you enjoy having workable spines that allow you to stand up and sit down, lie down, move about from place to place. Just consider how lucky you are and enjoy your mobility and verticality over the next week.
Okay.
All right.
You have another suggestion that you do want us to discuss next week, or no?
No, that's it.
Well, then we
I got
will be
nothing this
discussing
week.
that one.
Matt.
I have this MIT Medical Resources download page that has downloadable guided meditation.
Okay.
Oh, are we going to meditate?
All right.
Yeah, let's try the 20-minute mindfulness body scan meditation on that page.
Larry?
Hey, is this going to require me to hold a certain posture?
No.
Okay.
Well, there's a sitting one that's 6 minutes that does require you to sit.
Okay.
Let's see what I can do.
We'll do the 20-minute one that doesn't require sitting. Ben, or Barry.
Barry Ben decides. No classifications, just Tintin. It's for your choice.
Tintin?
Tintin.
All right.
Okay.
Like that.
And my suggestion is actually going to be an episode of Columbo called Swansong. Which here's the suggestion. It is an episode. I want to try and give it without spoiling it. It's an episode featuring Johnny Cash playing a character who is in some ways like Johnny Cash. So it's called Swansong, and it's an episode of Columbo. It's on Netflix.
It sounds
Okay.
really good.
All right.
I want to stress, this is not an episode that I necessarily recommend, because there are way better episodes of Columbo than this one.
I can understand that, but as a character, and never mind, I'll stop speaking.
What? For next
Okay.
week, but
All
Exactly.
right. So that's
Yeah.
okay. So
that's 5 suggestions for next time.
all right, let's
That's very good.
enjoy. Say goodbye. Let's go to bed.
Yeah, and here's to
Good night.
20 more years of
Good night, sir.
SuggestCast.